special rules this evening. Call this meeting to order. This time I'd like to ask Councilor Taylor, will you bless the meeting?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come together here to do the work of the Cherokee people. We pray that you would be with us, be with our administration and our law enforcement as we wade our way through these new things that have been put on us, and help us deal with it in the way that will most keep everybody safe. Pray that you will be with us throughout this meeting. For it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Counselor. Roll call, Shelley.
Yes, sir. Joe Byrd.
Ani.
Kanan Duncan. Keith Austin. Harley Buzzard. Julia Coates. Sean Crittenden. Joe Deere. Mike Dobbins. Rex Jordan. Darrell Legg. Wes Snowfire. Dora Petzkowski. Mike Shambaugh. Mary Bakershaw. E.O. Smith. Janice Taylor.
Here.
Victoria Vesquez. We have a quorum.
Okay. New business, dropping down to our item number 1. Counselor Duncan, you want to take that? We do have our Attorney General here with us if you have any questions.
Yes, sir. This is a resolution authorizing municipal agreements for traffic and misdemeanor citations and donations to municipalities. I put that in the form of a motion.
Got a motion and a second. Attorney General, will you just give us a brief narrative of what this entails?
Certainly. So this is the culmination of what's sort of been a work in progress for some time. One of the challenges of dealing with McGirt has been municipalities. Municipalities, especially in rural communities, depend heavily on the fines that they collect to fund their policing. And in a world, especially in communities where there's a high Indian population, many of those tickets would be under the jurisdiction of the Cherokee Nation. So if the local police officer in that city pulled someone over and gave them a ticket, that revenue would come back to the Cherokee Nation. It would not stay in the local community. This legislation would authorize a new kind of municipal agreement between the municipalities and the Cherokee Nation, one that would leave the jurisdiction in the Cherokee Nation where it belongs, but would allow the fines and fees that were collected by the local police to maintain that revenue stream in that local community. So if you were in the city of Tahlequah and you got a ticket in the municipality, on one hand, it would be more convenient because I could go if I was speeding, I want to plead guilty, I want to pay my ticket, I can do that at the local court. It's not that big a deal for someone in Tahlequah to drive to the courthouse here, but if you live in a county further north or further south, it can be a bigger deal. So I can go to the local municipal court, I can plead guilty, pay the ticket, then the county will send the small fee, the administrative fee, back to the Cherokee Nation, and the ticket would be filed in our court, but the municipality could retain that funding there in the local community. It would help pay for the local policing, which the nation needs, because in the alternative, there have to be marshals doing this job that municipalities are already doing, enforcing local laws and watching out for kids in school zones, all the things that local police are already doing. So I think it's a fair compromise. It keeps the funding in the local communities, which ordinarily this council, this body has usually been a source of funding to these communities anyway. So it's in line, I think, with the policy that this council has set before of prioritizing funding to communities for community policing. So it will be a unique agreement. Nothing like this has ever been done before. It's going to require some flexibility and some time, I think, for us to dial it in just right in a way that works. Every community has a little bit different access to resources. I'm sure we'll have some stumbles along the way, or we'll have to pick ourselves up and figure out what works for this community. But I don't know how else to do it, but then to start working together, putting together some of these agreements, seeing what works and what doesn't work, and moving forward from there. So we're asking the Tribal Council to give us the authority to begin working on that process.
Thank you, AG. Before we vote, I'd like to have just a little bit of input on Counselor Shambaugh on this.
Well, I think the fear from most law enforcement communities when this happened was that they would be doing the work for nothing. And if they were taking the risk and the responsibility and the liability to do this, and they weren't getting anything back, I think there was what kind of widespread panic that we're not going to do anything. So I think that kind of puts this to rest, where it shows that, you know, they're not doing something for nothing. And I think it answers a question that a lot of agencies were wondering on what was going to happen. How is this going to affect our department as far as funding goes? So I think it is a gracious thing to do. I think it's the smart thing to do, because are you getting into the dollar amounts that are going to be kept, or is that for later on, or what?
Yeah, we can go ahead and discuss that now. I mean, in the current system, the way it works, the state, if a city writes a ticket, $30 of that ticket goes to the state of Oklahoma. Obviously, that money doesn't now, nor ever did it belong to the state of Oklahoma. Now that $30 fee will come to the nation, and we can use that to do the work that we have to do here, to file the tickets, to keep track of all of these different municipal agreements. But the balance of that stays with the city. So the vast majority of the money that's collected stays with the local police, who already depend on that revenue. So for the larger municipalities, it's not such a big issue. I don't know, not that Owasso doesn't appreciate the opportunity. They're one of the municipalities we've spoken to several to get some input. We've spoken with Owasso, we've spoken with Sallisaw, tried to find some different size municipalities to discuss this with them. This is not going to make or break a municipality the size of Owasso, but it will make or break many of the rural community municipal police departments. So I think it's important for the bulk of the revenue to stay with the entity that's doing the bulk of the policing. And I think in the long run, it's a bargain for Cherokee Nation, because in the alternative, of course, we would have to hire marshals to go out and then replace all of these people. And many of these officers in these communities are Cherokee to begin with. So it would be taking positions away in one and then paying for them in another. So I think that this strikes a good balance to use the existing resources that we have in a way that's beneficial to the community.
Well, I think it doesn't change anything, and I think that's a big thing. It doesn't affect the small agencies in any ways whatsoever. The same amount of money is being taken out, and they're getting the same amount of money, actually more, because if they go by your bonds, right?
Yes, the amount, they'll have to go by the bonds and the fees charged by the Cherokee Nation, because these are still Cherokee Nation's tickets, and they are violations of the Cherokee Nation's law. It's just being collected by the local municipality, and then they're retaining that fee as a donation.
And actually, your bonds are higher than probably 99% of the agencies, so they'll actually come out better.
Some of
in the end.
them may. We noticed it was
Yeah.
kind of a bit of a range depending on the municipality, but many of them may come out better.
Yeah, they will. But the only thing I would say is that you may have to deal with is, you know, say it's a $200 fine, or even a $500 fine, a lot of times you don't see that $500 for a couple of years, you know, because there's always payment schedules, because people can't pay $500, you know, and they get to do that $25 a month or $30, you know, so I guess, will the PDs or the law enforcement agencies, will they be the ones who are, will they be doing the payment schedules, or will you all be doing the payment schedules?
So and this is where, you know, we've never done anything quite like this, but the plan now is to have our court put out a list of several approved payment plans that it will accept. And so if you go into a local municipality and you say, I can't afford to pay this ticket, I'm going to have to pay it out over time, they'll say, okay, you can pay it out over X number of months. This is one of the agreed upon, you know, payment schedules that we can accept here. And then they would agree to accept it. They start making those payments. When all of those payments are collected, then it will be forwarded on to the Cherokee Nation. If they need something else, or if they want to plead not guilty, then they have to come to the tribal court. So if there's some payment arrangement that's really unique that they can't be accommodated by one of the preset, you know, ones that have been approved by our court, then they'll have to come to the nation to do that. Or if they don't if they miss a payment or quit paying, or if they want a trial, they have to come to the Cherokee Nation for that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Counselor Paskowski, you got a question?
Yes. Can we have a copy of that payment schedule?
We can certainly give you a copy of all of our schedules.
Okay.
One of the things that I think we'll have is, because this deals with municipalities, cities each have their own set of crimes that they charge, so usually traffic and misdemeanor. So what we'll probably do with each municipality is when they say, yes, we're interested in one of these agreements, we'll sit down with their code and we'll look at, okay, these are all of the different charges that this municipality has. And then we'll say, okay, this is the Cherokee Nation's laws, this is what our cost is, this is what our fee or our fine is for this, so that they'll be able to say, okay, this is a Cherokee case. Normally, it would be $100, but because it's Cherokee Nation, their fee is $150, so you have to pay $150 for this crime.
Sure.
And we'll attach that for every city, so they'll know what that is, but that's in our law
Okay.
already, but we can send you that for sure.
And then one other thing, I was wondering about offering a friendly on this. In number 3, the accounting and record keeping, the treasurer shall include in her annual report, which I have no problem with her, but for future, I think maybe that should just be the annual report, because we don't know that we'll always get to have a her.
I try to sneak that into all possible laws where they're required to be women. But you caught me this time,
I would-
Counselor.
I have no problem with having her at all. Then the other thing, and I may be way off here, on number 9. Oh, gosh, yes, thank you. Where it refer the citation to the Office of the Attorney General for prosecution. And while I understand this is a piece of Cherokee Nation legislation, does it need to specify the Cherokee Nation Attorney General or not?
I think it would be a absolutely acceptable clarifying term to say the Cherokee Nation Office of the Attorney General.
Okay, that's all, thank you.
Shelley, did you get that friendly? Okay, would you read that back before we move on?
In number 3, it would read the treasurer shall include in the annual report, instead of in her annual report. And in 6, it should say, third party shall instead refer the citation to the Office of the Cherokee Nation Attorney General, just inserting Cherokee Nation prior to Attorney General.
Okay. Is that good, Dora?
Yes, sir, thank
Okay.
you.
All right, Counselor Dobbins?
Yes, General, did you say every misdemeanor or fine or citation written that the Cherokee Nation is going to impose, we're going to have a $30 charge, so to speak? And is this across all the municipalities in the Cherokee Nation, or does all the municipalities have to sign on or agree to this?
Yeah, every municipality will have to execute an agreement with the nation directly. So it won't apply to them unless they enter into this agreement with us to do this.
Okay. All right, thank you, General.
Okay, you good on that? Anybody else? Yes, Counselor Duncan?
I was just going to say, I failed to mention, this needs to go to council directly after this.
Okay. Yes, Shambaugh.
So we're going to have the same type agreement with counties and OHP?
So we're only contemplating municipalities right now. So this would not include counties, OHP, or any other agencies. This would only be for municipalities.
So how is OHP going to deal with Native Americans when they stop them?
So those tickets will be Cherokee Nation tickets. They have, and we've been working with OHP to upload into their system. They have a digital ticket system, and the marshal probably could explain it both better and more correctly than I can. But as I understand it, they're in the process of uploading into their digital ticket system the Cherokee Nation tickets, so that they're cross-deputized with the nation. So they can just issue a Cherokee Nation ticket, and those people will, well, at this point, will have to directly take those tickets. They'll have to pay them to the Cherokee Nation court. So we don't have anything like this with OHP right now,
But-
or with any other state agency.
So they won't get anything back from the tickets?
That's right.
Okay. We'll see how that works.
Well, we're going to start with the municipalities, and we will see what sort of, how successful this, like I said, and as far as I can tell, nothing like this has ever been done before I mean, at least that I've ever heard of. So we just got our heads together, and we talked to the local municipalities and thought, this seems like a problem we can solve, let's think it through. And then there are several municipalities that were immediately interested in it. So it's a little innovative, and I think that, like I said, we'll have some things about it that we think work great, and maybe some changes that we need to make, but I think it's a good model, and I think it's worth trying.
Well, I think that it is a good model. I like it. It's just that I think you're going to have a hard time people writing tickets and not getting, and like I said, the liability of a stop, you know, of if you have to get into a fight, if you have to lay hands on somebody and you don't get anything back for that ticket, I think in the end, I think that will be a problem. I'm just, from my experience, I don't think you're going to get, I don't think they will. But eventually, it'll turn out that way because, you know, I think the liability issue of putting yourself, your life in danger if you even if you have to use deadly force on somebody, I mean, on a native. And we're getting into some areas, if there's no payback for doing that, I don't think that's going to last.
Councilman Shample, one of the things is, I'm the one that brought this forward. It was a concern of the municipalities in our area. We've also talked to the county and OHP. They haven't had that same concern as the municipalities did. So right now, we're trying to facilitate those small towns that really are beholden to that revenue stream. I think that the counties and OHP might come later, but the ones that we've spoke to, it's not a concern from them like it was the municipalities. That's why we're here trying to get that done quick. And then chances are we'll probably see you again for the counties once a lot of counties haven't wrapped their heads around that side of it. Some counties do a lot of ticket revenue, some counties don't. So I think once that starts impacting them, we'll probably be back up here again. But that's the reason why we concentrate on municipalities, is because that was the complaints that we're getting were from municipalities. I have not one complaint from any county that we've talked to about, nor OHP, but I don't know why it wouldn't. I agree with you, Councilman, that it'll probably come, but those are going to have to be different agreements anyway, and we got to get those that are more affected than the others quicker. So
I agree. I just think that from the people I talk to, that I'm just relaying. So it'll come up.
Okay. Question, Councilor Taylor?
Yes, General, you had referenced the fee schedule. And do I understand that potentially a Cherokee citizen would pay higher fines than a non-Cherokee?
It's possible. I mean, every municipality has their own fee schedule, and there's been several of the municipalities we talked to said, you know, we would like could you guys just adopt our fee schedule instead of using your fee schedule? And I said, I don't think it's practical for us to change our law to every municipality's law. So it's possible that the Cherokee citizen may pay, or not even the Cherokee citizen, the Indian, may pay a slightly higher or slightly lower fee than what the city is. I think they're very comparable. It's not going to be a huge difference. But some municipalities have a little bit different fee than others, and so it may not always be exactly a perfect fit.
Okay.
Yes, Councilor Legg?
So let's say, failure to pay a fine. And let's say, are we going to offer a work crew where they could maybe pick up trash on the side of the road, cut wood for elders, mow elders' lawns? And then what would be the benefit of the municipality not getting their cut? Or are they going to sit in jail until the fine's paid off? Have those things been thought about, or?
I mean, we don't have any work crew or anything like the plans like that in place right now. I know that many of the cities, and other municipalities, they may have those sorts of arrangements, and it could be that our court could send them to work in that community that they're from, to work that off. I think that's, again, if they're not paying, then they're coming in front of one of our judges, and so we're working on what are the options that we have there. We certainly, having someone sit in jail that we're paying for their detention is not necessarily the best circumstance for either us or the detained individual. So if there are other options, we'll look at those. That'd be up to the judge
Good?
ultimately.
Right. Counselor EO.
Okay, if we do this tonight, when will this go into effect? And are we talking like 2 or 3 months? Would it be backlogged 2 or 3 months, or
Well, we're
when
hoping,
would the city start getting their money?
I think we can do it relatively quick. We've already spoken, like I said, we spoke to a few cities of different sizes to gauge. We gave them a sort of a draft that we had kicked out to let them look at it. So they would be able to give us some feedback. What did they like about it? What did they see the potential problems with? And then we made some adjustments in exchange, when we heard some of their feedback. So we know we have some cities that are interested right now, and we're hopeful to get those signed, pretty immediately after that. How long it takes other municipalities to come around to our way of thinking on this, or how popular it becomes, it's harder for me to guess. But we have draft memorandums that we've been working on, and we'd like to sit down with those cities that are interested and start getting them signed immediately.
You good? Yeah. Counselor No Fire.
Just want to touch on what Councilor Legg was talking about on work crew or different options. I think you said that our district court justices are going to have to come up with as something I'd like to suggest, and maybe you might be able to comment, or is I know Tulsa looked at doing it and works with their mental health board, that if you were petty theft and those kinds of misdemeanors, you have a citizen, say for instance, we have a Cherokee citizen that does a petty theft, is unable to pay the fine, most likely because the petty theft was stealing groceries or something of value in exchange for something, most likely because they're either in a poverty situation or they're homeless, and they're unable to pay that fine or bond out if they were arrested, but most likely it's unable to pay a misdemeanor fine. So we have administrative costs that are going to go up with this. We're going to bring them back to court to come to us to have to try to make them pay. Then they go back out in a municipality that they're going to have an arrest out because they don't have the ability to pay. Then we re-arrest them for not being able to pay, and so it becomes a backlog of administration costs that we're not ever going to get the money out of these people. So I know Tulsa took the approach of, I think it was like a first-time offense where, if it was your first offense for a petty theft or a misdemeanor, and you're in that bracket of being someone as identified as a homeless or someone in a very in dire need situation, to where we don't charge them their fine, and we allow them to have a work plan to where they're able to even maybe do a day work program at Cherokee Nation for a day. And then that way we can take and look at an evaluation of how we can get them the help they need to get back on their feet, or at least in a assumable living conditions, to where they're not out trying to do petty theft and then just causing this backlog of problems that we see come out of the municipality areas. So it's just something that might be something to talk about in the future.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Anybody else? Counselor Crittenden.
We can tell our county folks that this is just the beginning, right? There's possibilities for counties and different agencies down the road. I'd like to be able to say, and I think I heard you say it, that this will definitely be a possibility later for the counties to get involved with something like this.
I mean, I think it's possible. I think we'll have to, as he said, right now it'd have to be something the counties would be interested in. I don't know that they are.
Okay.
If it works well with the municipalities, then I know there's one thing that I'm certain about, is that the chief is looking at every option. So if there was a county that came to us and said, hey, we have an idea, we'd like to talk to you about it, I'm sure that we would be happy to talk to them about it.
And I'm glad you're starting there with the municipalities, and it's going to help a lot. Is the Attorney General's office going to have representation? Are they going to be housed in different areas? Or
So for most of the municipal offenses are misdemeanors, things like traffic tickets. So 95% of it is going to be people that go to the local desk and they say, hey, I was speeding, I want to pay my ticket and get this over with. So there's nothing, our office would not need to touch that. They would pay the full, they would say they're guilty, they would pay the ticket in full, they would send the fee to the Cherokee Nation along with the ticket, and the court would file the ticket in the court system. So it'd be a Cherokee Nation ticket. We wouldn't necessarily need to do anything else
Right.
than just
I
sign
was just
it.
thinking in the beginning stages, there's gonna be a little confusion on, what are we supposed to do here and there, and, but for now, there's not gonna be any extra.
Yeah, if they need,
offices.
if they need a prosecutor, then they would have to come to tribal court. Now, it's possible, there are a few counties where there are Cherokees who are also district court judges in that county, in the municipalities, they're city judges. And so there, we have a few more opportunities to maybe have tribal court there, and have those people sit as referees since they're Cherokee citizens. So there might be a few counties where we can do that. But that would be an unusual circumstance. The plan is for this to work fairly automatically, and the only time you would ever need to come to Cherokee Nation or visit with the AG's office is if you plead not guilty, or you have some other unusual circumstance.
All right, well, thank you.
Okay, quite a task. We asked for it, we said we were sovereign, and finally somebody at the highest level read their notes and said they are sovereign, so we got the ruling, so we have to take care of it now. Okay, you had a motion, you have a second, we had discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay. It is passed.
Thank you.
All right, we've got our council meeting coming up here in about 5 minutes, so need a motion to adjourn. Motion, second, Agiosi.